The challenge is complex. Find a way to help Navy sonar detect, identify, and classify potential underwater hazards, from inert rocks to deadly mines, and determine how to keep sonar signals from being overwhelmed by reverberations from the seafloor or from non-hazardous objects.
If you go to a canyon and you shout into it, "Marco!" you'll hear an echo coming back. You do the same thing in the ocean and you hear an echo coming back, and that's the reverberation part of it. So now think of that same canyon and you shout into it, and at the same time there's an echo coming back. There's somebody shouting back at you and wants to give you a message, wants to tell you who he is. Well, that's the target part. So the target part is embedded in this big echo that's coming back at you. So in the ocean, it's the same problem.
In the Target and Reverberation Experiment, TREX, APL-UW researchers measured mid-frequency reverberations, searching for ways to detect hazards while screening out environmental reverberations caused by the bottom, by water temperature, by waves on the surface, and by schools of fish.
This is 15-meter range, 20, 25, 30, 35, and 40. There were 3 targets out here. This one right here is actually a rock. We're trying to provide the kind of database of various types of targets that you could potentially be looking for out there in the ocean.
The dive teams assembled a 50-yard-long underwater target field, then used sonar to interrogate targets from various angles and ranges. Some targets were buried or partially buried in sediment.
And then we try to understand what is special about that target that allows you to know it's that thing versus something that is different, that is a barrel or a underwater refrigerator or whatever it might be that somebody threw out. So that's kind of the detection problem.
The nearshore underwater environment proved to be complex. Reverberations came from mud, sand, shells, and the ever-present, always curious fish.
Either they completely block the signal, you get nothing back, or they scatter the sound alive. There were just too many fish. The good side of that is that it does give us a set of realistic data, because, I mean, you're going to have the fish in the ocean when they go out to look for these things.
The dive teams found targets to be characterized by certain acoustic features. Sonar pings not only bounce off targets, they cause targets to ring, resonate in unique and identifiable ranges. TREX moved previous findings from a controlled pond to the uncontrolled environment of the sea. The goal is to model target acoustic responses in real-life scenarios and, in turn, improve Navy sonar's ability to detect and classify underwater hazards.
Our job is to use what we think are the sensor capabilities that they've developed, and then back up and say, what's the physics of the target? How is that seen in the acoustics? And then, in a certain sense, the way the Navy, they understand that they're going to build a system, but they know that over the course of 30 years, the one thing they can do is upgrade their modeling capability or their signal processing capability.
Science at work for you. This is APL, the Applied Physics Laboratory at the University of Washington in Seattle.